Hello everybody and welcome to your next Allegro 5 tutorial. Like the title states, we're going to be learning about loading fonts and drawing text to our screen. Now, if you were a previous Allegro 4 user, then you should know that there was a default font that was loaded into the Allegro game library. And that font was pretty bad in my opinion, and fairly small. But if you just needed a font just to display something quick on the screen, then you had that default font loaded. Unfortunately, in Allegro 5 they don't have a default font, so if you want to have a default one or have a custom font or whatever, then you have to load one yourself. Now, you might be saying, "Oh man, that might be a bummer, blah blah blah," but there is an advantage. Instead of using like PCX font types, we can use the true type fonts that are default on your system to actually load them into Allegro. In Allegro 4, say you wanted to use the Arial font type, what you would have to do was to take the Arial true type font, change it to the PCX type font, and then load it into the Allegro into your Allegro program. With this, there's no need for the modification of the file type, so that's a big benefit. So let's look into the code, and as you can see at the top, we've added two includes. We do Allegro 5 / Allegro _ ttf.h, signifying that we're going to be using true type fonts in our program. And right here we load the Allegro font.h, the class right here, the header file. So all the initialization is the same. This stuff is from last tutorial, and right here, this is something new right here. Now, the difference between Allegro 5 and Allegro 4 is that once you did like Allegro init and Allegro 4, it would initialize everything all at once. Like, you had to use like install keyboard and install mouse and stuff, but generally like the functions were activated all at once. In Allegro, there's something we use called modules, and modules are indeed functions, but we call them modules because they activate certain functionality that wouldn't be activated without using these modules, right? So we basically say that we say Allegro _ init _ font _ add-on, and we do the same thing, Allegro _ init _ ttf _ add-on. We basically state that we're going to be using font functionalities, font variables, functionalities, whatever we need, and we're going to be using true type font functionalities. So you need to include this if you want to use this in the rest of your program. Make sure you add these before even using any of the properties. So after we have initialized our font and our true type fonts, then we want to actually create a font variable, and then we need to load it so that we can actually indeed use the font. So if we check right over here, similar to when we created a display, it's simple. We do Allegro in capital letters _ font, and then in capital letters, make sure it's in caps, and we put a pointer, and then we name it whatever we want. So right now I just named it font, and before we even continue with anything else, since we're allocating it ourselves, then we want to deallocate it in memory right here using al _ destroy _ font, and we put font in here to deallocate memory. Now, if you guys are worried about if you forget to deallocate memory or whatnot, blah blah blah, then just watch my video on memory leaks. Don't worry about it, it's fine, but this is good programming practice to deallocate memory when you allocate it yourself. So what we do right here is that we put al _ load _ font, and we load the Arbitron black font .ttf, and this is just a font that I downloaded off the internet, You guys can download any custom TrueType fonts that you want, but I'm gonna load in this font. Now you're gonna be saying, where did I actually get the font from? Well, if we look in our font folders, okay, let us go wherever you saved your project. We go to our project folder. So mine is in the D drive, C++ projects, and it's gonna be YouTube Allegro 5 series. And then if you're using Visual Studio, then you will have debug, IPCH, YouTube, or whatever, and all these things here. What you want to do after you click your project folder, you want to click this folder, the project's name folder again, double click that, and then you want to place your font in there. Notice my font is in there, Arbitron Black is right there. Now if you're using code blocks or something, in a default folder, once you open up and double click your folder, then you can place it in that main folder and it should work. So I've placed the Arbitron font in there and I load it. Remember to put the file extension there so it knows what you're loading. So you do Arbitron on black.ttf. The next parameter asks for the size of the font that you want it to be displaying, and these are other flags. These are for bitmap flags. These are not. You really don't need to use them, so just set this to no. So hooray, we've just loaded our custom cool amazing font. Well, what do we do with it? Okay, so we want to draw some text to the screen. So this is how we draw text. We do al underscore draw underscore text. The first parameter asks for the actual font we're using, and since we named a font right here, then we just put the name right here, font. The next one asks for the color. Okay, now the color, I could make it a very broad subject, but right now I'm not gonna get in depth into color. The following tutorials will be getting more in depth into it. Basically, the color system in a lot of games today, well, in most games, if not every, follow the RGB color scale. R stands for red, G stands for green, and B stands for blue. The color can range from 0 to 255 in these parameters. The higher the value, the greater the intensity, and the greater intensity, like the more of that color is there, the richer the color. So right here I have 44 red intensity, 117 green intensity, and 255 blue intensity, meaning that we have full blue intensity, not like around like halfway green, and not so much red. And when they mix together, like remember when we were in kindergarten or whatever and you did finger painting and you used to mix certain colors together? That's what it does. It mixes the colors together to make a brand new color. The next parameter asks for the X position and the Y position where you're drawing it on the screen. Now the origin position on Allegro 5, just like Allegro 4, starts at the top left corner of the screen. So the farther right you go towards the screen, so let me just run this program. Right here in this top left corner is the point 0, 0. The farther right you go, you increase in the X coordinates, and the farther down you go, you increase in the Y coordinates. So right now I put screen width divided by 2 for the X coordinates and screen height divided by 2. And if you're wondering where I got screen width and screen right from, I just made a defined statement stating the screen width and it's 800, and I defined the screen height as 600. And there's many benefits to doing this, because say you modify the screen width and the screen height. Instead of before, when I had 800 by 600 here, once I had 800 by 600, say I modified the screen height and I'm like, no, that's too big, I want it 640 by 480. Then I'd have to go back down here, then I have to change this to 640 by 480 and blah blah blah. Once we have the defined statements, whenever we change the values up top, then it changes the value throughout the whole program. So whenever I change it here, it will change it throughout the whole program, and that's very convenient. So I said the screen width divided by 2 and the screen height divided by 2. So that should align it around the center point. Now, to make it even more central, there's flags that we could put here. And there's 3 different flags you can put. You can put Allegro underscore align underscore left, Allegro underscore align underscore center, or Allegro underscore align underscore right. And basically, if you use like Microsoft Word or whatever, it's just basically where the starting pointer begins to signify where it starts drawing from. So if I put center right here, then you'll see the effects of it after. So last but not least, we have the text that we actually want to draw, and the text I'm drawing is my website. And if you just ran this program, then you'd be like, okay, how come I don't see any text? In order to see something on the screen, Allegro has something called a back buffer. And what the back buffer is that what it does is draws everything to the buffer, and then when you make a call to Allegro flip display, then it flips the buffer and shows it and flips it. It transfers all the graphics from the back buffer and puts it to the screen. So what the back buffer does is that it prevents flickering and stuff, and I'll get more into this when we're actually drawing like actual graphics like rectangles and triangles and stuff to the screen. But basically the back buffer is very convenient to prevent flickering and more precise smooth movement. So make sure you do Allegro underscore flip underscore display, or you will not see anything. We put AL rest for 10 seconds to rest it so we actually see our program. We destroy the font, destroy the display, and return 0. So if I was to run this program, let's see what we get. So we get coding made easy right here in the general center. Now this isn't perfectly centered because it looks perfectly centered, which is good, but I don't believe it's not actually perfectly centered, because it doesn't take into consideration the actual font height, which plays a role in the text actually being centered. And if this doesn't make sense to you, then it doesn't really matter. It looks centered, so basically just say it's centered. So if we do Allegro align right, let's see what we get. See, since it's aligned right, then the pointer will start drawing the word from here and then start going towards, it will start going towards the right because of the right, it starts drawing at the right corner of the word. So as a second example, once we do a line left, then let me run that one more time. When we do a line left, then it starts drawing from here, and then it continues drawing the word from the left pointer towards the right of the screen. Once you do a line right, it draws from the right corner and draws towards the left hand of the screen, if that makes sense to you. The default behavior is align left, so if you were to put null right here, then it would do the default behavior for align left, right? But they have that property there in case you say you align it right and then you want to change the alignment on it, then you can switch it back to align left or whatever. So that is it for our font tutorial and drawing text to our screen. The next tutorial will be drawing shapes to the screen, drawing rectangles, rounded rectangles, triangles, circles, and all those neat stuff. And you might be saying that's kind of stupid and pointless, but trust me, they can really be exciting and really can enhance your game programming experience. So hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I know it's kind of long, but thanks for watching, and bye.